Hello everybody, this is Havoc with a different video for the channel, but one that I'm still very excited to make. We are going to do a Crusader Kings III tutorial walkthrough. Essentially, I've got round about 75 hours in the game at this point, and I thought, hey, the tutorial is still kind of confusing, especially for brand new players. So I thought, why not just go ahead and do the tutorial and then give a little bit of side input as I'm going along, so I kind of, know the game. So that's what we're going to do. So, welcome to Crusader Kings. You are a medieval ruler. Land is yours for the taking through clever marriages and diplomacy, or by way of the sword. There is no one way to win in Crusader Kings, only different ways to enjoy the story that unfolds. So we're just going to walk through this. This is a pretty lengthy tutorial, but it will just help you get control, get some basic ideas of the game and its mechanics, and then again I'm going to give some kind of side inputs as we go along that might help you out just a little bit more. Camera 1 basics: use the WASD keys to move the camera across the map. You can also move the cursor to the edge of the screen. I don't have that enabled anymore. We can go into that maybe in a little bit, or I can do that in a separate kind of key bindings tutorial. To zoom in and out on the map, use the scroll wheel. So as you can see, we have different information is displayed at the different zoom levels. This is the details map, which will show you all of the different counties, baronies, and general territories. You can see we can even zoom right here and kind of see the borders of the detail map. You then zoom out far enough, you get into the political map, which does not show details, but shows the politics side of things, all the different kingdoms, what they entail, etc., etc. And then as we zoom out far enough, we get into the paper map. This is more for aesthetics, or if you're just wanting to get somewhere a little bit quicker than the norm. But as you can see, as we scroll, it's a very subtle kind of cartography style map at the end. Nothing too crazy or fanciful. Zoomed in, you have the ability to select and manage your holdings. Each one of these individuals is a holding. This is a barony tier, and this is different from Crusader Kings II. We did not have the ability to walk through and have this barony type system, so that's very unique for Crusader Kings III. And then zooming out gives you an overview of all the realms, which is pretty cool. I really enjoy that. Crusader Kings spans over hundreds of years and many generations. Right now, time is standing still because the game is paused. For this part of the tutorial, we'll keep the game paused while we walk you through the game concept. So down here, as you can see, this is the date, and this is the years from the game start. We can hit play, but it won't do anything. I mean, they're keeping it paused for you. And then you can either select up here, or if you have a number keypad, you can do plus or minus to increase or decrease the time. Space will pause and unpause the game. I don't think it doesn't appear that the plus and minus on your numbers at the top seem to work. So it does seem to be that. I'm sure you can keybind it to whatever you wanted to. If you don't have a number pad, a keyboard does, so we'll just have to work with that. Sometimes you will see blue highlighted text like this. This means you can hover over your cursor, cover your cursor over the words for more information. Some of these words can lead to other highlighted words, which can then show even further information. Duchy can lead to county, which leads to barony. So for instance, we can do this, and what I'm doing is I am middle mouse clicking to lock. Normally you would have to, by default, hover over this, and you'll see a transparent bar go up that then locks it in. Now I am going to show you this because this is one of the first things that I tried to change past the tutorial. So we are going to go to settings, and then I'm going to go to game, and under tooltips, I am under action lock. That lets me lock the tooltip that I selected. We're using the middle mouse. The timer lock, locked in place if the cursor does not move, which is the default setting, as I mentioned. And then mouse tendency, tooltips automatically lock in place until the cursor moves away. Action lock still allows me to look around per se inside of the highlighted box, so that's tend to what I do. So there we go. So as you can see here, if I middle mouse click, you see that lock, and I can go into neat, and good job. So as you can see though, every highlighted blue text can lead to another tooltip. So you could, in theory, have a whole bunch of different things that all go in one. It can get a little bit confusing, but it is tooltip heaven for those that enjoy it. Rulers of the land, the map. Now let's talk about the game. Everything takes place on the map before you. The world consists of large and small pieces of land, each belonging to someone based on their titles. Your titles are represented by icons with elaborate coats of arms, which is over here. The icon representing your realm is set by your primary title, which is the most important and prestigious title that you hold. So as you can see here, we have two titles. We have the Petty Kingdom of Munster, and we have the Earldom of Thomond. Now, the Earldom is obviously below a Petty Kingdom. It goes Emperor, King, Duke, Earl, per se, or a Barony. So that way you kind of get an idea, but this will always be your most prestigious on the far left. It's obviously more prestigious to have a Petty Kingdom than it is to just have an Earldom. Now, if you'll see, when we hover over that, which they may let us know here in a second, you can see that when I hover over that title, it shows all of the lands within that title, which is very unique. Is very, very handy, I should say. So we got that down. The icon representing your realm is set by your primary title. We already went through that. If you click your character portrait, which is down here, the borders of your realm empire will light up. Outside of that will be the borders of your entire realm. Munster is your primary title, which is why your realm is named after it. So we have here, this right here is our capital of Luminic. Yeah, Luminic. And as such, we have the Petty Kingdom of Munster instead of being the Petty Kingdom of Desmond, per se. We also hold the Earl of Thomond as a separate title. If you zoom out, it will read Munster, as this is part of the map, because you are the top ruler of the area. Pretty cut and dry so far. As a ruler, you can only hold so much land on your own. You will often have other rulers helping with the administration of the realm by holding land or titles within your borders, making them your vassal. To find your own land, your domain, press the home key. There we go. And zoom in. On closer up, you can see the blue labels on the baronies that belong to you. In this case, it is only Luminic. The Earldom of Ormond is held by your vassal, as you can see here. So that's a really good, quick, easy way when you have a larger empire of seeing what lands you personally own in your own domain. It will always have that banner. Anything you do not own will not have it. It'll simply have the coat of arms of whatever vassal holds it. So that's a very quick way just to see what lands you personally own so you can take advantage of it. Characters. You are playing as one out of many characters in this world, represented by character avatars, which are absolutely amazing, by the way. Your character is the ruler of a realm. You will need to make sure that your dynasty survives and thrives through the ages. Your titles give you power and control over territory and other characters who might hold titles and land of their own. So if we click on our character, characters have skills, indicating their proficiency within a certain field. Some are great talkers, while others prefer to make their intent clear on the battlefield. The main skills are diplomacy, which we'll see here, is a skill representing a character's ability to charm, negotiate, or persuade. It directly affects the opinions other characters have of you, and it is used to further diplomatic schemes, which we'll get to in a little bit. Martial indicates how good a character is at waging war and leading armies into battle. High martial skill is important for army commanders since it improves their advantage in battle. Now that's something we'll get into in a little more of an advanced army battle tutorial, but it is very important to have a high martial skill if you are personally going to be leading your troops into battle. Stewardship is a skill that helps rulers manage their domains. It directly increases taxation, making it a very useful skill for all rulers. So stewardship is very good. Once you get a larger realm, it increases your ability to manage more lands, and then just has some very good benefits for the, ownership and administration of your own personal land. Very important later on, I would say, in your campaign, not so much right now. Intrigue is a skill representing a character's ability to understand and manipulate other characters and to organize elaborate plots. It is mainly used to further and defend against intrigue schemes. Schemes are, well, let's look at it. This is a long-term attempt to affect another character in some way. Some schemes are personal, while others are hostile. Oh no, oh no, my bad. So intrigue definitely has its ways. If you like being behind the scenes and sending assassins and doing things like that, then intrigue is your skill. It's not my skill very much. I don't tend to focus on it. Doesn't mean that you can't. Learning is the last one. It is a skill measuring a character's literacy and wisdom. The learning skill of a ruler affects the cost of increasing crown authority and also yields an amount of piety. Characters with high learning can be expected to have extensive knowledge of all common scholarly endeavors, including theology, philosophy, language, and mathematics. When it comes to your learning skill, you want to have a character with a high learning skill, mainly for technologies. As it said, it increases crown authority and piety, of course. But as a cultural head, which I don't think we'll get into in this tutorial, a high learning skill will increase the rate that you generate technology. So it is a pretty important skill later on in life, and especially as a cultural head. So as we can see here, which we may find out in the next one, let's go next. Characters, we'll go over this real quick. So as you can see, our petty king Murkad MacDonkad, goodness, he isn't that great of a guy overall. The only thing he's really good at is his martial skill. And as you can see there, he is wrathful, which we're about to get into traits, and a skilled tactician. And the effects gives him an increase in levy size, which is your base army, and then levy reinforcement rate. So he's a very excellent marshal. He is okay in stewardship and poor and terrible at learning. He's not a very bright person, let's just say that. So that's kind of gives you an idea where you may want to use him once you play the tutorial and once you finish it, where you can use Petty King Murkad once you're done. Characters also have traits which can affect skills as well as how they react to things. These are illustrated by the icons in your character view. Some traits tell you about a character's personality, like fickle, calm, or generous, and if we hover over those we can see what it does. -2 to stewardship, hostile scheme resistance. He's calm, you lose stress a lot easier. Dread decays a lot slower, actually. And then generous, you're giving away stuff, so your monthly income isn't going to be great. And if there's a greedy character in your court, it's not going to like you. Other traits are specific to how a character has lived their life, such as your education trait. He follows a martial education. Upon reaching adulthood, he received the trait skilled tactician or commander traits. So as you can see, we are temperate, which gives us a health boost. Opinion of temperate characters. We are virtuous to Catholics, which is pretty important. It increases our piety rate. But we are wrathful, which seems kind of oxymoron. We natural dread +20. They're quick to anger and fury, and we are also impatient, which means we're pretty dumb because we're not willing to learn. People's opinion of us, opinion of our our vassals' opinion of us goes -5. We don't view our liege, if we had one, very well. And then patient characters don't like us at all. From this, you can see that your character typically lives a modest life, but expects others to do so also, and is quick to anger when they don't. When a character chooses to behave against their personality traits, it causes stress. That's not good. Traits can also impact how other characters react to you. Some people are impressed by the brave trait, while a lustful character is more likely to be featured in salacious gossip. Traits influence other characters' morality and greed as well, which can affect both their friendly and hostile actions. All characters, yes, every single character on the map, through one method or another, has an opinion of another character, which drives their behavior. Low opinion can cause people to rise against you. High opinion can, on the other hand, make characters more inclined to join your murder schemes or fall for your seductions. So for instance, our heir, Brian, his opinion of us is +74 because he is our son. We are his father. Confederate partition, we are the same dynasty. He likes our temperate virtue, our skill. And then, but personal diplomacy, he's not so great about. So it could be 80, but it is 74 because of those modifiers. Still very high. And there's nothing he pretty much won't do for us. Gold, which is one of your resources. To help you further your goals, you will need gold. Among other things, gold pays for buildings, armies, and bribes. Gold is collected passively from your holdings and your vassals as tax. Larger vassals and more important holdings tend to give more tax. However, money is not all. Certain things can only be achieved by spending the right amount of prestige or, for religious matters, piety. And this is where I'm going to go over real quick if we can. We sure can. So as you can see here, if we click on the Realm tab, we can see our vassals. And as you can see here, we have 2 vassals, actually. And Earl Ragnvald Sigtryggson, goodness gracious, gives us 0.3 gold per month, which is 10% of his taxable income. And then Liege levies at a rate of 25% of his total levies. And then Mayor Dolgus gives us 20% of his taxable income, which is still only 0.1, and then he only gives us 7 levies. If we hover up over here, we can see that our domain, this is what our personal lands make, and you can see that right here is 2.3. If you want to see how much that breaks down to, hover over the tax, and that will give you your total income for the whole area. And then you see down here vassal taxes. So vassal taxes, and that breaks it down kind of on an easier scale than going down to the vassals. So there's a lot of ways you can easily see how much you're making if you want to break down, if you're that kind of a person, which I am. Your prestige tells us how respected you are. It can be earned over time by holding lots of titles, for example, or actively, such as marrying into prestigious dynasties or fighting as an ally in wars. Whenever you earn prestige, you build towards your next level of fame. Higher levels of fame make other characters think better of you and bring powerful ways to wage war. Some actions cost prestige, like declaring a war. These allow you to leverage your celebrity for your own benefits, and characters won't think less of you for using them. Spending prestige does not affect your level of fame progress, just your current prestige. So prestige is very important. There are lots of ways to use it. Level of fame is currently established, which you see right there is the very base level of fame that you can have. And as you prestige up, as you can see here, this is our prestige bar. Once we level that up to 1,000, which will take roughly, I don't know how many months, a long time, basically a decent amount of time, you'll get distinguished, which gives us a secular opinion +5 and allows us to get more knights, which is pretty handy. Now, as you can see here, your crown authority is something we probably won't get into in this tutorial, but you will cost you crown authority to enable the next level, or it'll cost you prestige, to level up your crown authority, and also to call allies to war. Not only does it cost you prestige to declare it, but if you were to bring in allies, it also costs you prestige, which potentially limits how many allies you can bring. All very interesting things you probably just wouldn't know right off the bat. So again, why we're making the video. With a lot of piety, you will have an easier time interacting with your head of faith. As you are Catholic, this is the Pope. Piety can be gained passively from the learning skill and from virtuous traits, or actively from choosing to do religious things, such as going on a pilgrimage, which is very hard to do, just FYI. You also have a level of devotion, which is similar to the prestige, which builds over time whenever you gain piety and can have positive benefits for your character. Similar to prestige, some actions require you to spend piety, like declaring holy wars, or if you want to create a new faith. Spending piety like this is normal, and characters won't think worse of you for it. So as you can see here, we get 2 piety a month, 2.2, because temperate is a virtue, religious relations, and learning. Our level of devotion is dutiful at the moment. And by the way, I clicked I middle clicked while holding this, and that I clicked on it, and that brought up our religion thing, but we won't worry about that. Get out of that. And so as you can see, if we were to get up to faithful, Catholic clergy opinion is +5. And I don't know if it's going to let us. Oh, there we go. So as you can see, it just basically affects clergy opinion of us, which is still very helpful. At some point, you can spend piety and ask your head of faith, or your bishop, for money, which is a pretty handy way to get in some extra income. But overall, there are lots of uses for piety. It is pretty important. And as it mentioned, you can eventually create your own faith if you wanted to. Lifestyles. As well as traits, your character can also pick a lifestyle. There are 5 lifestyles, 1 for each skill. Lifestyles represent what you put the most effort into day to day, and each one has several focuses inside relating to it. Every focus gives you a unique bonus and makes events associated with that focus more likely to happen. When you click on the lifestyle button, it is always going to be right below your character, signifying that it is a pretty important part. And as you can see, we have our 5 different lifestyles directly tied in to the skills that we talked about before. Click on any lifestyle to see its focuses. So let's go on martial. Because of our martial education, we gain 30% more experience in this lifestyle. That's pretty crucial. So once we click inside, as time goes by, your character will learn lifestyle experience for maintaining a particular lifestyle. When you acquire enough lifestyle experience, you can select one of the lifestyle perks from any of its trees. Perks represent you practicing and developing yourself over time and offer unique bonuses like special traits or unlock lifestyle specific mechanics and content, such as the ability to start abduction schemes. As an example, the strategy authority as well as the chivalry focus all give martial experience, which can be used to buy any of the martial lifestyle perks. The perk trees in turn lead to different lifestyle traits. So as you can see, if we were to pick into martial, we have a focus, and you have to choose this on selecting a lifestyle. Now you can switch your focus, you can switch your lifestyles, but there is a cooldown period in between that, so you couldn't just flip-flop whenever you wanted to. So you can see you have a strategy focus, which gives us pure martial ability, and then 32 martial experience a month. As an authority focus, we get +1 martial, which isn't that great. We get dread gain, which we already are dreadful, so that would be kind of important here if we wanted to go the dread route. It gives us control growth, +3 per month. Control is a grip that the government has the population of a county. It's essentially public order for anyone who's familiar with things like Total War. And then a chivalry focus, in which case we up our prowess, which is a secondary skill that reflects the character's aptitude in personal combat. Martial skill is not enough in combat. Prowess is also equally as important, more so actually in several ways, especially when it comes to battle. Our attraction opinion, since we're being chivalrous, goes up. Our advantage, which gives us advantages in battle, goes up by +5, and no matter what, we still get that 32 experience. We're going to go with chivalry. Our base is 25. We get a skill tactician +30%. And then as you see here, our focus can only be changed every 5 years. So it is a pretty important kind of thing to look after. Now, as you can see here, we have for the tutorial, the Overseer unlocked, which all of these are an individual perk, which means every time this got to 1,000, we were able to unlock another perk. And we went all the way down. We almost have an Overseer. We may do that by the end of the tutorial. I don't quite know, but as you can see, Natural Dread, A Man's Home, Controlled Territory Advantage. We get Enduring Hardship. There's so many perks. And so you're really just going to have to go in and look at them yourself. If you want to do a martial, I recommend Gallant, because you get prowess, you get an effectiveness of your knights. Gallant is going to be fantastic for your initial battles. Strategist will give you advantages in battle, specific to recruitable units, not your levies, and then gives you a casus belli cost of -50%. And then Overseer is great, but it is more for kingdom control than it is for individual lifestyles, or than it is for battles. There we go. All right. Other characters and interacting. Now, having selected a focus, we can move on to other people. If you're new to this game, interacting with other characters is key. This is absolutely true, and you have many options how to do so. You can right-click on a character portrait, including your own, to get a list of potential interactions, such as arranging a marriage or initiating a scheme. This is also where you start wars, but let's try something else first. We're going to open our character views, and this gives you all of the interactions that we have. We have family members, both dead and alive. We have relationships, as in a wife, or friends or rivals. We have our court. This is our relationship with everyone inside of the court and their various opinions of us. And then we have vassals, and this is where our vassals come into play, where you can kind of get a better overview of how to interact with them. So we are going to right click on our heir's portrait, and let's start with the basics. Everybody likes gold. Try sending a bribe to our heir. So you can see here, we go down to personal, send a gift, send a lavish gift to increase Brian's opinion of you. So we're going to pay 50 gold to a Brian. So paying 50 gold will give him 10 opinion of you, but not just 10 opinion of you. It comes at a cost. Every year that goes down by 1.2. So give or take, probably about 8 years. About every 8 years, or in 8 years, that opinion will die down. So that's a pretty decent gift. 50 gold for 10 opinion for 8 years is pretty good. I like that. We will send that gift. You have successfully increased somebody's opinion of you. Certain opinion modifiers last forever, like family bonds. Others will wane over time, like the fading memory of receiving a monetary gift. If you have your cursor over the opinion number of another character, you can see exactly where their variant numbers are coming from. So yeah, as you can see here, Mayor Dolgus, he's impatient. Our short reign, as in our reign as the petty kingdom of Munster, is causing -20. He's calm versus our wrathful, so that's not helping. But temperate is a virtue. We have given them autonomy, so autonomous vassals is doing great. And so there's just a whole range. That list can be massively long. It's never going to be it's usually not a short list of things that opinion someone. Playing as a family. Next, let's talk about your dynasty. As the game goes on, unless your character meets an untimely accident or terrible disease, they will grow old and eventually die. The story doesn't end here. It's only game over if you do not have an heir of your own dynasty. This is the point of Crusader Kings III. You want to ensure that your own personal family makes it through the ages. It's not even about empire management as much as it is solely about characters. As long as you have heirs of your dynasty, your legacy will live on. As your character dies, you simply start playing as the new one, the player heir. Depending on the type of succession your realm has, this is likely to be one of your children, perhaps one that you groomed into the role of a ruler. Your dynasty has its own coat of arms, right here, House Brian. You don't need to do anything with this now, but if you want to look at the details of your dynasty, it can be found here. So we'll go into that in just a little bit, but as you can see, it gives us a whole range of information, including how many members of the doll. So we are in a kind of sub house, essentially, but as you can see, we have plenty of members, in 15 of them living. Yeah, look at that, pretty cool, inside of 2 houses. So as you can see, as a cadet branch, we'll get into that way later. Succession laws determine how all titles and resources are divided between the heirs when a character dies. You currently only have 1 heir, but let's take a look anyways. So we're going to open up the Realm tab over here on the right-hand side. We are going to look at succession. As a member of a dynasty, you also have renown. Shared by everyone in your dynasty, renown goes up whenever anyone in your dynasty gets prestige and reflects how famous or infamous your family is rather than just you. Making significant strides in your own renown will echo down the generations of your descendants, slowly increasing your level of splendor. Splendor is, there's our renown, and this is, we are currently insignificant. The next is noteworthy. So as you can see here, there are several base origins, obscure, insignificant, all the way down to legendary, which means children are born with 1,000 prestige. And marrying into this dynasty gives 900 prestige. Rulers get a maximum of plus 55 long range opinions. So it's going to take a while, but you can definitely have some benefits having such a long, splendorous reign. As the dynasty head, which is the most powerful member of your dynasty, renown will allow you to unlock dynasty legacies that benefit all of you. Unlike prestige, renown remains after a character's death. To review the dynastic legacy of a dynasty, click on your dynasty shield. We're going to go here. So as you can see here, we are insignificant. As I mentioned, if we open our dynasty tree, we're able to see everyone that is in our dynasty all the way back to this broski, way back in the day. So as you can see, this is our father. Lots of children in this area, but they all died. And then everyone in this entire family, they died as well. So it's not a very prosperous family. But as you can see here, this is the beginnings of our family tree, which is pretty cool. We are currently the dynasty head as well. That's just if that's a different from you. And then we're going to open up dynastic legacies just super quick. As you gain enough renown, you can eventually unlock different dynastic legacies. These do all sorts of things. For example, if we got bounteous loins, we get fertility plus 10. Dynastic members get better education traits. Spouse's opinion as plus 10 if fewer complications during pregnancy. There's just all sorts of stuff. But we can only do one at a time once we get up to 1,000. So it does take a very good long while. This is one of those things where you're going to have to just look through each individual thing to figure out which one you want. But you can only do this as the dynastic head. You can't select these if you are not. So that's important to remember as well. So anyways, we need to find a spouse. For unmarried characters in your domain, you can set up marriages or betrothals by right-clicking on the character and choosing Find Spouse or Arrange Marriage. So we're going to do it up here so you can see it a little better. We right-click, Arrange a Marriage between two characters at your own court. So this isn't you. However, if it is you, we can find a spouse. Choosing Find Spouse opens a list of potential spouses. They hail from courts all over the world. It's another thing to consider. Choosing Arrange Marriage also opens a list of potential spouses, but only with people from the court of the character you clicked. So that's an important distinction. If you arrange a marriage, it's only... So if I were to go over to Desmond and I were to arrange a marriage, it would only be between the two courts of our two societies. If I were to find a spouse, it opens it all up to the world. So that's a pretty big distinction that you want to remember. Find Spouse is more relevant for our purpose. There are many factors to consider when choosing a spouse. To help you out, there is a filter available for sorting. Among things to consider, there are alliance, skills, personality, traits, expected fertility, and more. So if we look at toggle filters, as you can see, maximum age, we can designate an age that we want, an age difference between you and your subjects. So if we only want 5 years in between us, it'll go down to a maximum of 34 and then a minimum of 34 and a maximum of what, 44? 44. Or we can do all. We can do an adult. We can marry children. They of course will not. They will be betrothed until they come of age. So that is something to consider, which is still gross that a 39-year-old man can, you know, be betrothed to a infant, but that's just how things were back then. Fertility, you always want fertile. I don't think there's any reason why you want an infertile unless you're doing another character. We always want fertile. Health, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want healthy. Religion, it is obviously a little bit better to stay within your own religion. So we're going to actually do, so there is a distinction here between religion and then your faith. Our religion is Christianity. Our faith is Catholic. So if we wanted to limit it to Catholicism, we could. Culture. So we could do the same culture group as us or the same overall culture. So this Goldelic group is our specific region, and then Irish is the entirety of Ireland, for instance. That's not so much interesting for us. Alliances, we could filter by alliance, by marriage prestige. If we would gain prestige by marrying, that's pretty important. You want to gain prestige so you can therefore get up to that distinguished level, eventually work up your renown. Ruler, let's go. No one is a ruler. No females are rulered. Landed, unlanded, not a ruler. There we go. So we're going to do that. Dynasty, we can choose between the same dynasty as us, which we could do. We get traits of potential inbred. Not lowborn, which basically characters that belong to a dynasty, or lowborn that have no dynasty, no land whatsoever. And then claims, if we have any that have pressed claims, this would be important. If, for instance, the Duchy of Holland, West and Zealand, If we wanted to eventually take over those lands, we would want to marry into that so we could then have a claim on it. It's all very complicated. Not only that, but you have your drop-down menus where you have relevance. Let's actually go all here just so you can see. We have relevance, we have alliance power, so this gives us our greatest alliance. If we were to filter down, this would give us the least men in an alliance per se. We also have prestige gain. So if we were to do this, we get the most prestige by marrying Emily. If we were to do prestige gain all the way down, we would get the least amount of prestige. Oops. Let's find a spouse again. We have rank, which means are they a countess, are they a princess, or are they just lowborn? We have age, of course. We have opinion of you, which is relatively important. I wouldn't say it's a make or break situation. You can always sway them. Diplomacy, martial, stewardship, these are all different skills, or a sum of all skills. You could do who has the most overall skills. Gwaldus Furch Rickwallen McThrall, who is Welsh. Okay, cool. She has the best skills overall. So there's so many things that we can do. Nothing will happen until you click proposal. So let's go ahead and do her just for kicks and giggles. As you can see here, we will gain 100 prestige, which isn't a whole lot, but because we have a petty kingdom, she will gain 400 prestige for her family. Marrying into any faction will bring you an alliance, and this shows their military strength that you can call on for a war. Let's see what this is. We have selected her. We're going to send the proposal. Now, one thing to mention real quick. If you are trying to marry your daughter, naturally, it is a male-dominated world. That's just how it is. So if you marry your daughter away, they will be under the husband's lineage. It will not be under yours. If you want that to be different, you can click matrilineal marriage, and in which case the children will be born into their mother's house instead of their father's. You never want to do this as your own dynasty, but if you can get away with a decently high court position, it's marrying off your daughter, and can get away with a matrilineal marriage, then definitely do that. And then of course you can use a hook, which is basically blackmail to kind of force someone into a marriage that they normally wouldn't. So they've gladly accepted our marriage. You will be joined with my daughter Gwaldus in holy matrimony. May Saint Bridget bless your union. This is signed Lord Wallon ap Giffen on Pillin. Okay. For this tutorial, we recommend that you find spouse for your son as well. Absolutely. For this, we're going to go with alliance power, and we're going to pick someone that is relatively close. So Dennis Frickbleden MacBrodolful is Welsh, a potential alliance with the Principality of Gwynedd. Now, because he is a foreign ruler, he is a prince, we get more prestige because we're marrying into a bigger house than us. And then they get a little less prestige. So as we go here, their military strength is superior. This would be a great alliance for us to be in. He does accept it because he desires an alliance. Our opinion is okay. He would obviously accept it way more. Oh, he wouldn't. Interesting. If we had selected matrilineal marriage, that could be the tutorial speaking. All right, so both of our guys are married off. It is no longer a bachelor house. We are on to dynasty and the house. Family is very important. It is obviously the name of the game. The player heir will always come from your dynasty and most often from your house. In the future, it won't hurt to keep an eye on your family and their line of succession. Depending on the succession laws, you might end up inheriting titles. So, for instance, the player heir will always come from your dynasty, most often from your house. Your family, that means people outside of your immediate family, potentially, and their line of succession, if you can maneuver it, eventually, since you are family, you could end up inheriting titles. If that land is fruitful, you may not consider your family so important. That means those being outside of your immediate, and maybe produce some schemes, in which case someone might have some happy little accidents, and all of a sudden you are inheriting a kingdom. It's possible. I've done it before in this game already, actually, in Crusader Kings III, and it's a lot of fun to do. Not everyone in your dynasty will be landowners, but every plot of land on the map has an owner. Sometimes that owner is you, sometimes it's one of your vassals, and sometimes it's another realm entirely, many of whom also have or are vassals. Most titles are structured together in a pyramid-like fashion using title tier. So way back, probably 30 minutes ago, I went through this and I screwed it up. I'm not going to lie. So at the bottom is a county, making you a count or countess. Going up from that is a duchy, making you a duke or duchess. And I'm actually going to do this right here. We're going to focus on a county. So at our base, each one of these yellow borders is a county. The county in Earldom of Desmond, county in Earldom of Ossory. This is a county in the petty kingdom of Connacht. As you can see, each of those is 4 baronies inside a single county. Each one of these yellow bars represents a different county. So keep that in mind. It goes barony, which is individual places right here. County is this overall. And if we zoom out just a little bit, next up is duchy, making you a duke or duchess. So if I were to conquer all of this land right here, which is Desmond, I could then get the title as the Duchy of Munster. And then I could get the Duchy of Leinster, of Meath, Connacht, Ulster, Lothian, etc., etc. Once you get beyond that, it is a kingdom. We have a petty kingdom, which is a weird kind of in-between. It's a very, very bizarre little petty kingdom thing. You're technically a king, you're just a petty king. Next up, we have the kingdom titles. So if I were to have enough of these duchies to have a majority, I could then become the King of Ireland, the King of Scotland, or Queen, the King of England, of Wales. Once you own a majority, you can then create that title. And then lastly, as an empire. This is where we can really zoom out. So eventually, if I were to hold enough kingdoms here, I could then become an emperor of Britannia, an emperor of Francia, or empress, excuse me, of the Holy Roman Empire. There are many dynamic names for these titles. Your current ruler is in charge of a petty kingdom, which corresponds to the duchy tier. So I own a majority of the land in this duchy, which we'll go back to right here. So because of that, the way I think it works is that if you don't have a liege, as you can see, we have no one above us. So we're not a duchy. I think that's actually how it works now that it comes to mind. So because we own a duchy, a majority to be called a duchy, it is technically a petty kingdom. If we were to have an emperor over us or a actual king over us, we would be the duchy. We would be a duke of Munster is how it would go. It's all coming together in my brain. There are also barons, the minor rulers of single holdings beneath counts. These characters are generally quite minor and they are unplayable. You cannot play as a mayor or a baron, just as an FYI, at least not yet. Who knows if that'll be a DLC way in the future. We say technically because as Crusader Kings lets you play with history, there is no way to guarantee that a king is actually in charge of all the titles that his kingdom is supposed to contain within his borders. We call this title hierarchy de jure, and if the structure has been broken, it is often possible to declare war over such territories. If you switch to the duchy's title map, you can see that as the ruler of the duchy, the county of Desmond should legally be part of your realm. So that's kind of how I explained it. So, for instance, we own a majority, so we have a de jure claim, as it's called. We can declare war on this guy, seize the earldom of Desmond through de jure. Because we own a majority of this duchy, we have a claim to it. The same goes as a kingdom. If I have Leinster, Munster, Connacht, and Meath, I get a de jure claim on Ulster, meaning legally and technically I'm the King of Ireland. No one can contest that on the island of Ireland, so I can then go in and force a claim and to be able to have a justification for taking over Ulster. So we're going to return to the Realms map mode. Your holdings. The de jure title of Munster consists of 3 counties. Their names should be visible on the maps. That's Thomond, Ormond, and Desmond. Thomond, held by you. Desmond, held by a neighboring ruler. And Ormond, held by your vassal. These counties are made up of smaller pieces of land called baronies. I've already explained that a bit. On this level, we find your holdings. holdings represent settlements. Holdings provide different levels of taxes and levies, as well as buildings that you can construct and upgrade depending on the holding type. It is not very important that you build right now, but we suggest you start by upgrading the bastion and curtain walls. So as you can tell, we click on the anywhere on the county of Thomond, and it will go by individual holdings wherever we select, or if we were to just select here, it would go to our capital. And as you can see, we have in Leumnic, we have 4 out of our 5 building slots constructed with things: lookout towers, height 10s, bastion and curtain walls, and small harbor. We're going to upgrade that right now. And as you can see, this is the current level, 0.2, fort level 1, garrison 150. If we were to upgrade that, it bumps up everything. It does cost 225 gold and 3 years to make. Now there's lots of modifiers to that. We have plenty of money, so let's go ahead and upgrade it. And we will finish on May the 29th of 1069. Very good, very good. But if we were to look here, we could build a new building if we wanted to. We can upgrade the prayers halls. This is a monastery. You have a city. Those are the 3 kinds. Cities, churches, and castles are the 3 different types of holdings you can have. Every holding provides taxes to their holder. If that holder is a vassal, they will also pay taxes to their liege. Taxes provide your main income. Obligations can affect how high or low these taxes are. Times of war can also affect the level of control, which in turn affects taxes. Obligations is something I don't know if we go into in the tutorial, but basically you have a feudal contract, which is an agreement, and this is the obligations. They are obliged to pay 0.3 per month and give 61 levies. Now that can be modified, as you can see here. Our control is absolute, and as such we get levies. They're changed, and taxes are changed by a certain percentage. Due to war, as mentioned, if it gets raided or if armies are sitting there soaking up stuff, that will go down, and therefore your levy and tax contribution will also go down. Vassals. As a ruler, you are likely to be the liege of at least 1 vassal. These are rulers within your realm who have sworn fealty to you. Vassals supply you with money and soldiers or levies, as I've mentioned. It's possible to both be a liege and a vassal at once. Very possible. Open the realm view on the right side of the screen. I didn't know what was that last one? Inspect the vassals tab. So anytime you open the realm tab, it automatically defaults to the vassals tab. Here's your list of your current vassals, along with some additional information about them. At the top of the list is the ruler of Ormond, whose land you can see on the map. So if we were to hover over him, you can see the things that he owns. So he owns the entire county of Ormond. If we were to hover over Mayor Dolgus, as you can see, he owns the barony city of Innis. He is a mayor. It depends. It's very, very complicated. But basically, mayors, barons, they're kind of the same level. Go here for an overview of things such as your vassal's current opinion. So we can see here whether they considered a powerful vassal. They are powerful. They are the most soldiers and the highest income. So as we only have 2, naturally they are going to be the most that contribute to my realm. It's worthwhile keeping your vassals happy. This keeps them out of schemes and factions against you. No matter how mighty a ruler your character is, if your realm unites against you, either to depose you through war or just to murder you while you sleep, your reign is bound to be cut short. Some of your vassals might serve you on your council, making their opinion extra important as they will be trusted with counselor tasks. Are we going to go into that? We aren't. So I'm going to. As you can see here, we do have our council. It is made up of 6 positions. Your wife will always be the Duchess. Your bishop is no one that you can change. I cannot fire him because our religion, I won't say ever. I cannot fire him due to my religious traits of the religion, not myself. I would fire him if I wanted to, or if I could. I can't. Now, as you can see here, he is a powerful vassal. They will expect to remain on the council, and they will get very upset if you don't, and they will get very upset if you don't put them on the council. So it is very important. However, you will notice you only have 4 positions, basically. So if you have more than 4 powerful vassals, someone's going to get the short end of the stick, which means you're going to have to find other ways to satisfy them. There is a limit to how many vassals you can comfortably be in charge of before your realm becomes unwieldy. Going beyond this vassal limit affects taxes and levies provided to you. This doesn't matter for the tutorial, but when you start to build your own kingdom, be mindful of growing too fast. So as you can see, we'll go down to the realm, and down here, my vassal limit, I can have 20 vassals. A vassal counts as a count or above, so baronies or mayors don't count towards my vassal limit. As you can see here, I have 2 vassals, but I only have 1 for my vassal limit because my mayor does not matter. They have to own a county. That's very important, which means you could have 100 vassals, and with your vassal limit is 20, if you only had 20 vassals with a count or higher, that would be a count, a duke, a king, then you only have your vassal limit. You don't have 80 others that you have to worry about. Realm and domain. I told you this was a long one. We are nearing on the 50-minute mark. Past it, actually. Your realm is to be complete body. Your realm is the complete body of land and titles that you own, including the areas held by your vassals. Right now, for you, this means the counties, called earldoms, due to your Irish culture, of Thomond and Ormond. When domain is used, we are instead referring to the land that you own personally without vassals. Thomond. Pretty cut and dry. Our realm is everything. Our domain is what we personally own. Some things that happen will only affect your domain, while other things that will impact your entire realm, the duchy or petty kingdom of Munster. Note that there is a limit to how much land you can hold personally before you start incurring penalties. The domain limit, that's this little flashy thingy up here. So as you can see, we only have the earldom of Thomond. We can only hold 5 domains, so I can only hold 5 other counties or 5 duchies. Actually, can't even hold 5 duchies. There is a very set limit, but it is, it is dependent on a lot of factors. You can have a much higher domain limit, but for this main of the tutorial, we can only own 5. When you go above your domain limit, it can be a good idea to use grant title interaction, making them your vassals. So let's go ahead and show you that real quick. Hitting. There's no spare titles to give away. You cannot currently do this, but you would otherwise find it in the character menu. So if I were to go here, I can grant titles. So as you can see, if I owned anything outside of the earldom of Thomond, I could give away the earldom of Thomond, at which case I would lose 2.4 taxes per month, because that's what I make. I make 100%. But I would get plus 40 opinion from Earl Ragnvald. So it's worth it if you have some troublesome vassals or if you're going over your domain limit. Council. Managing a realm is a lot of work. As a ruler, you have the help of your council. These can be either vassals or members of your court, and they act as your trusted advisors. There is one corresponding to each area of skill. Married rulers will also have their spouse. So we already looked at this. I didn't know we were going back into it. Counselors can be set to work, and they all do different things. You can change a counselor's task by clicking on the button near the portrait in the council view. Being a counselor is a prestigious position. Powerful vassals will expect to be chosen for it and will be unhappy if left out. So that is one thing I didn't go over. As you can see, by default, these guys each have their own set ways. He is a religious relations, which builds piety. He does foreign affairs, which builds prestige. He's doing taxes. He's increasing levies, and she is affecting schemes. So there are alternate things, some of which can be positioned. For example, I want to fabricate a claim, and I could do so over here, for instance. It will complete in 15 months if I wanted to do so. Right here, domestic affairs. He will increase the direct vassal's opinion. We could go here to increase development. That's another toggleable one. There's lots of things that these guys can do, although their default stances are very, very helpful, and you wouldn't have to necessarily move them if you didn't want to, except for prestige or fabricating claims. You want that. Schemes are long-term goals aimed at another character. You can have hostile schemes, goals like murder or abduction, or be more wholesome, such as befriend. Open the intrigue menu. We're going to go over to schemes. Oh, no, we're not. It should be open by default. There we go. A good time to use scheme might be when you find the line of succession not being as clear-cut as you'd like. One way to get ahead is to simply remove the competition, quietly and with no witnesses. Murder schemes come with the risk of discovery. If your attempt goes awry, it will make your character unpopular, especially with your target. The sway scheme is made for increasing the opinion someone has of your character, and we are going to try it. Right-click on our court chaplain. As you can see right now, he does not like us. He does not like us at all, and he does not endorse us. You have no levies and taxes from church holdings, which I don't think we'll get into that with this one. But we are going to go with sway, which is a scheme. As you can see here, it is going to it's going to 64% success chance, and will take 16 months. We're going to start that scheme. Once set in motion, your scheme will slowly progress over time. The time before a conclusion is reached will vary depending on its success chance, which can be affected by relevant skills. In this case, it is affected by your diplomacy, which is less than satisfying. Oh no. It's still less than satisfying. If you are unhappy with your schemes, you can always cancel them by clicking the abandon scheme button. So if we were to go to here, I could abandon the scheme if I wanted to, but we're not going to. Secrets. Hooks and secrets over here. Sometimes schemes can give rise to secrets. If you catch someone trying to commit murder, it's probably in their best interest to make sure you keep it quiet. You can also blackmail them, gaining a hook. Hooks represent a favor that you can call in with a particular character, encouraging or forcing them to do your bidding. As you play, you will find many different ways to gain and use hooks. When you start playing, experiment with it. Next, let's pretend you have managed to get a hook on your vassals. A weak hook can be used for a number of things. One is to increase the obligations set by the feudal contract you have with a feudal vassal. So we were going to do this, so I'm glad that we are actually in here doing it. To access the menu for changing your feudal contract, go to your vassal list in the realm view, or right-click this portrait and go to Modify Feudal Contract. The other one is in Realm, and then Modify Feudal Contract, or right here, this Renegotiate. I understand. Oh, well, let's go back to that real quick. So, we modify our feudal contract, and this allows us to do certain things with taxes, with levies, and gives us certain rights that we can force or grant them. So for instance, he's giving 0.3. I'd really wish he'd give more, so we go high. He gives us more, but it's an act of tyranny. Modifying a contract is just not cool. So we would lose all of our subjects, would lose 20 opinion of us, which is pretty intense. And even Earl Ragnvald's opinion goes down by a decent amount. Now, you can't modify two separate things at once over here, so you can only do high taxes or high levies. Personally, I'm going to go for the taxes. And then succession rights, they do different things as well. Opinion with the vassal, this guarantees that he will always have a seat on the council and that I'll never ever give it away. And then what we can do is we can use a hook. Now, what you see there, it's an act of tyranny. So we don't lose that 20 opinion, which is pretty important. Because then people will be like, oh, well, Ragnvald willingly did that. That's not an act of tyranny. He willingly did that for himself. And we wouldn't see that negative modifier. Just on him, which is perfectly fine. Next up is war. War is an essential part of Crusader Kings. There are a lot of concepts to cover, but for now, let's touch briefly on some of them. So the most important things in any war are the battles, which are fought by armies. Most of your soldiers will come from levies, but you can expand your army by employing men-at-arms. If things get really tough, you can also hire mercenaries, provided you have the gold. We're going to open up the military button. So we already did that. It didn't go forward. When a war starts, you will be able to raise armies from the screen via the Raise All Armies button. When the war is over, you will have to disband your soldiers before starting another war. Rally points, which is this red flag, are mustering grounds for the levies and men-at-arms under your command. To start a war, you need a legitimate reason, a casus belli, against another ruler. There are various ways to obtain a casus belli. You might have de jure titles, which is what we're doing with Desmond, that make you the rightful liege of your target. You might inherit claims, or you could pursue holy wars against nearby infidels. Although these are the most common, there are dozens of different types of casus bellis for you to discover and use as you play. The easiest and most straightforward is to acquire claims through Fabricate Claim on a County. This is something your court chaplain can do, which is that right there. Almost there. Soon we'll let you unpause the game. There are just a few things to cover first. Firstly, it's important to know that there are 5 different speeds available to you to play. Press keys 1 through 5 to easily switch between them. So there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or the plus or minus button over there on your number pad. Secondly, for certain important events, the game will auto pause for you. This is crucial. When an event pops up, please don't hit the spacebar because you'll just keep on rolling past and things can happen. There's nothing wrong with playing at lower speeds, increasing the speed when things get quiet, or slowing it down when you go to war. Generally, we recommend you pause the game when you inspect menus or when you are faced with tough decisions. To start the ticking of time, unpause the game using the spacebar or by clicking the play button. This will let days, months, and years to go by. Armies told to do so will move, events will occur on the screen, letters will be sent, and characters will age. Find a speed that is comfortable for you. For me, I play on around 3 speed when things get really tough. I do on 1 when I have some very precise things to make, and then I play on speed 5 when things like a siege are going on or when it's kind of just boring. What now? Now is the first task. Let's remind your neighbor, the Earl of Desmond, who his rightful liege truly is. If it happens to expand your realm, so be it. Using the character interaction system that we went over earlier, selecting him via the map, declare war on the ruler of Desmond. We already have a casus belli to seize the earldom of Desmond, as his title is de jure part of your realm. From our hands-on experience, we will now walk you through what happens in the flow of war. So as you can see here, our objective is to take the earldom of Desmond. We will gain the contested county. The ruler will become our vassal. Their army is vastly inferior to ours, and it will cost you 100 prestige. We're going to declare war, so he's not very happy. We're going to do I understand. You have successfully declared war. Next, you should rally your armies. A button has appeared at the bottom, right here. And this also shows your war score, which I'm sure they'll do. There we go. All right, so that our rally point, which was in Lumnik, that's where our armies will gather. These are our knights. They are the first people to show up. And we're going to have to press the space bar to have time go forward to give time for our armies to develop. I understand. All right, so our army has developed. We only have 606 soldiers. To move your army, left-click on the map and right-click on the area. Right-click, left-click on the army, right-click on the map to move. As you can see, if we were to do that, we unpause, and they are moving slowly but surely. Oh, wedding celebration. Hold on. Let's gain some. Let's get the prestige for sure. Wedding celebration to our queen. And they'll either give us money or prestige. We'll go with that because we got a lot of money. Now your army is moving. It is heading into the battle with enemy forces. That can be a head-on encounter, or it can start a siege. A siege can only happen in the county's head. All right. I understand. New cultural fascination. A battle is occurring. An outcome of a battle between 2 armies depends on a number of things. As you can see here, we have an advantage score. Is it going to walk us through that? It is not. So as you can see, the advantage score, our advantage is because we have a higher command skill. We are leading our own soldiers. We have a chivalry focus. Our commanding advantage is also higher due to our martial skill, our chivalry focus, etc., etc. We have more units, and we're pretty much just going to wipe the snot out of them. Our knight has been wounded. We have a victory, they're running away, and now we are laying siege. You need to win sieges to win most wars. Sieges are denoted by the spears right here. Whenever a siege is won, it takes a few rounds of attack. The area will become occupied, changing its regular look to a striped one. So we're going to do that real quick. Just real quick. There we go. So this shows those stripes that we own the entire county. War score. To get an idea of who is winning, you always look at the war score. We're going to delete those. So you can see now it ranges from -100, which is not good for you, to 100, which means you can end it, and changes based on battles and sieges won or lost. So as you can see, I won battles, which is 19% of my war score. I occupied the number of holdings they have, which is 100% of their holdings, which is full occupation, and then I captured their air, which gives me 25%. So technically, I have 144% war score, but it's all good. All wars end in one of three ways: victory, white peace, or defeat. The exact consequences of these change depending on the casus belli, and details for a specific war can be found by right-clicking the enemy ruler and selecting Offer Peace. Victory is near. Your war score is at 100%. You can use Enforced Demands. Right-click that character and select Offer Peace, or click on the war score and Enforced Demands. There we go. So we now have another vassal. We have gained the contested county. From now on, we will stop the tutorial lessons appearing. You will, however, still be able to get some advice if you open them when they pop up on the alert. And that is pretty much it. You now own the entire county of Munster. Since the war is over, we disband all. They go away. And as you can see, they will recruit up to 681 now. You have a new vassal. Except for he is not very happy with you. He has a very high intrigue, so what I recommend doing is going down here. She is simply a spy master. She's our aunt. She does have a higher intrigue, but I'm going to go ahead and replace it with Earl. We're going to do that. And now he's only at -32, not -52. So that's a pretty big increase, and may actually defer him from trying to develop anything against us like a scheme. Guys, that is all I'm going to do for the tutorial. All right, and that is the end of the tutorial for Crusader Kings III. Your next steps are to try and fabricate some claims on the areas around you, and just overall try to work on your family. Try and get as many people as possible and expand that dynasty. There's going to be a lot of questions. I have no doubts. Like I said, the tutorial isn't that great of an explainer for everything that you can do. Hopefully that I helped a little bit, and if not, then there will be several more tutorials coming on the channel, each going into the areas that we discussed during this tutorial, but in much greater depth. So I highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel, and of course turn the notification thing on, so that way when a video does go live, you can obviously be a part of it. Also, if you have yet to buy Crusader Kings III, I mean, you're just watching this and haven't bought it yet, go to nexus.gg/HForHavoc. It is my own personal game store where I have selected specific games to showcase that I have played, that I have loved, and that I want to share with my community. You will see when you buy just what portion you'll make, or excuse me, I will make when you buy it. It's just a great way to build a community around supporting a creator, and of course, it is not mandatory, but it is always appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Follow me for more tutorials on Crusader Kings III. This is Havoc, and I'll see you in the next video.